Okay, Wildcats, today we're looking at August 30th, Families of Functions Continued, and that's going to be on page 5. Now, you notice on August 31st, you'll have quiz 1, so there won't be a video. Okay, so with that, if you would, update your table of contents. All right, now your table of contents are updated. Let's take a look at, we're going to go to notes, but then in essence, the notes is I've already kind of printed the page out for you. And what this is we're going to look at the name and domain range of each of the 9 parent functions. Okay, so let's start. The first one is linear, and the domain and range is from negative infinity to positive infinity, and the range is from negative infinity to positive infinity. Now the next one is quadratic, and the domain is from negative infinity to positive infinity. Now the range, remember, is from bottom to top, so the bottom number is 0. It includes it, so it's bracket 0 to infinity. All right, and the next one is cubic, and the domain and range are both negative infinity to positive infinity. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, so the next one is exponential. And the domain is from negative infinity to positive infinity. Now the range, it looks like it touches 0, but it doesn't. So it's actually from 0 to infinity. So it's from 0, it doesn't include 0, to infinity. All right, and then the next one is logarithmic. And here, remember, domain is from left to right. So it looks like it touches 0, but it doesn't. So it goes from 0 left to right, 0 to infinity. And then the range is from negative infinity to positive infinity. And then the next one is cube root. And again, the domain is from negative infinity to positive infinity, and the range is from negative infinity to positive infinity. All right, last 3. So this is square root. Now, to understand the difference between square root and, say, logarithmic, is square root, think of this, square root of 0 is 0, square root of 1 is 1, square root of 4 is 2, square root of 9 is 3. So they should have those specific points. Okay, now the domain, because it includes 0, so it's bracket 0 to infinity from left to right, and then range, again, it includes 0, so it's bracket 0 to infinity. All right, the next one is absolute value. All right, the domain is from negative infinity to positive infinity, and then the range is, again, bracket includes 0, bracket 0 to infinity. And then the last one is rational. And the domain, this has asymptotes, so the domain is from negative infinity to, it doesn't include 0, so 0, or 0 to infinity, because it's not included. It's going from negative infinity to positive infinity, but it doesn't include 0. Now the range, same thing, it's going from negative infinity to 0, not including 0, and then 0 to infinity. All right, so what's important about these 9 parent functions, domain and ranges, is if it's, say, absolute value, the domain and range are going to always be in this format, okay? If it's, say, quadratic, the domain and range are always going to be in this format. So once you identify whether it's quadratic, cubic, or so on, you go back to your notes. Okay, I know it's in this format. So in this case, this isn't going to change for quadratic, but this 0 might change. Okay, cube and cube root are very easy because they're always, no matter where the function is transformed, it's always going to be from negative infinity to positive infinity for domain and range. All right, so now let's look at the examples. All right, so linear, okay, we know that no matter where the function is, because that's what this is linear. From the previous page, we know the domain is from negative infinity to positive infinity, and the range is from negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, it doesn't matter where that linear function is, we know domain and range are always that. Okay, the next one, this is quadratic. Now, we know from the previous page that the domain for quadratic is always negative infinity to positive infinity. But the range we know is bracket to infinity. So what we have to do is, we know it's not 0, so we find out where the bottommost number is. So 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 to infinity. All right, so this is cubic. And again, you should know these by their shapes. Okay, their shapes are very specific. Okay. All right, so here, this is cubic, and we know cubic and cube root are both domain range are negative infinity to positive infinity. And the range is negative infinity to positive infinity. All right, here, this is exponential. Now, we know from the previous page that exponential is parentheses to infinity. So we have to find that starting point. So it looks like negative 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5. So it's negative 5, not including, to infinity. And then the range we know is negative infinity to positive infinity. All right, so here, now this one is hard to recognize, but we know it's either logarithmic, exponential, or square root. I always check for square root first because they're going to have specific points. Now, it's hard to see because it's a transformation, but that would be 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And if this is, so this would be square root. And square root, and again, has a 0, 0. Now, I know this is 0, 0, but if you think of it like this is technically the 0, 0, that's 1, 1, 4, 2. And I don't think you can go all the way out, but 9 and 3 would fit there. So this is square root. Now, square root we know is bracket to infinity and bracket to infinity. Okay, so here from left to right, the leftmost point is 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, since this is reflected, this actually reflects as well. So because normally it's going from to positive infinity, but in this case it's actually coming from negative infinity, and it's going up to 1, 2, 3, 4. So, but it's still bracket 4. Okay, so if the function's reflected, then the range or domain could be reflected. All right, next one is cube root. And we know this one's easy. Domains from negative infinity to positive infinity. Range is from negative infinity to positive infinity. All right, example 7, we know this is absolute value. And we know domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. Range we know is bracket to infinity. So we have to find that starting point, which it looks like is negative 1. Here we have logarithmic, which we know here, this is going to be parentheses to infinity. So we figure where that starts. So 1, 2, 3. So 3 to infinity. And then the range is from negative infinity to positive infinity. Here, irrational domain we know is from negative infinity to, and it looks like here, -1, -2, looks like to -2 or -2 to infinity. And then the range is from negative infinity to, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4 to infinity. All right, so if you understood those 9 examples, then go and start working on assignment. If you had some trouble, had some questions, or didn't understand those examples, then just be ready for class to be in the small group, traditional classroom aspect, where I'll go over those examples again in class, okay? So with that, have a wonderful Wildcat day.